Hello, everybody. This is Mike Feldbauer from the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation, welcoming you to the road to recovery. And we'll be back with you in just one moment. Well, we're back with you. Thanks for joining us today. Today, my special guest is a young lady that I've met, I'm guessing probably 3-4 years ago, maybe even a little longer.
About 4 years.
Yeah, when you were walking for Dr. Sim.
Yes.
Yeah. This is Heather Staffer, and she's here to talk about her story in her world of recovery. So, Heather, whatever you feel comfortable about, where you've been, how you got to where you are, what you're doing now, your road, whether it's been curvy, up and down, whatever, people need to know that there is, as you see up on the screen, this hope. And whether you've had a rocky road to hope or a smooth road to hope, which is rare, there still is hope. So give us a little story about who Heather is, where you've been, where you are now, okay?
All right. My name is Heather. I'm an addict. I've been struggling with addiction for well over 20 years. Growing up, I had two sisters, kind of a broken family, and of course, addiction ran rampant through my family. So I learned about drugs very early. I won't talk too much about the drug part because we all know kind of what comes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can remember when I was younger, where it kind of started, which it took a long time to realize that. And once I did, is when things started getting a little better very slowly. Um, I think it all came with betrayal, and I just became a really angry person. And it started out just acting out, lying, doing, kid things until the drugs were introduced and alcohol. Um, I was first introduced to rehab in 2009. Of course, when I got there, I fought. I didn't want to be there. I wanted an attorney. I thought it was a cult. I used to tell Miss Marlene was my counselor at Project Warm back then, and I can remember arguing with her and telling her they were just trying to brainwash me. And I fought that for a long time. Um, and then one day in one of the groups, about 3 months later, I heard this one definition of addiction, and I don't know why that clicked for me to start listening, but it did. And I was simply told that the definition of addiction, think of it as a thinking disease. So then it kind of made sense to me for that definition. I don't know why. And I started listening. I didn't do everything I was told to do at that point, which I think was the cause of my rocky road
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years. But every time I've been to treatment, I've gotten something out of it and learned more about myself. Um, and then I went back to treatment, of course, relapsed, got in more trouble. I went back to treatment and learned more about myself, and it ended in 3 treatments, and still just didn't get it. I just would keep relapsing, and I didn't really understand why. And of course, I found a higher power, and when I did that, things got better, but still weren't. If that makes sense, I don't know.
It does.
Um, I do know that I've never done everything that I was told to do, like in NA or AA or the 12-step program. Um, but the more I would do that they say, the better it would get. So now I've come to the realization, after many ups and downs, that maybe I need to start doing what I'm supposed to do and doing it the way they say, because my way does not work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do know I've seen a lot of miracles in Flagler County, a lot of people that I was in active addiction with, and their lives are beautiful today. And my clean date is September 15th, 2024. So I relapsed again, and it was probably the worst that I had in a very short time. And I can remember the morning I woke up and decided to go to detox. I was done, and I don't know. It's not a choice anymore for me to use. And if I just tell myself that if I stay clean no matter what each day, that things will get better. I I definitely do believe that I need to stay active in the community and stay circled up with a good support group. I do believe I have a wonderful support group now,
Excellent.
and I plan to try to keep them very close.
Good sponsor.
I'm working on getting one. I
Okay.
have one picked out. I just haven't had a chance to ask because I also recently went back to jail, but I went sober this time for driving. So that was a little bump in the road, but I didn't use over it. Before I would use, to try to thinking that I would fix that, but I didn't. So
So at that last issue, you didn't let the trigger you.
no, I
You
did not.
control it. You started to learn what the things that you were being taught and how to control it.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is great. And so when was that? When did that last incident happen?
I actually just got home the day before yesterday, Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got driving on a suspended license. I was going to work, and the good part about that is I had a support group in my corner because I had, I was doing the right thing. So um, I stopped blaming people for my
Mm-hmm.
actions. I hold myself accountable today. I know that was a big thing. And my favorite word is transparency. That's like my favorite word every day.
Okay. How long were you in for that incident?
I think about close to 20 days, maybe not
Okay.
not too long.
All right.
Long enough to know that I can go to jail sober too. um,
Yeah, I think the sober actions are choices, and maybe the non-sober acts were not really choices. Too many people out in our community have to understand, and I say this often on these broadcasts, that we can't think of people that have been in substance abuse, into addiction, as somebody from one of those Hollywood movies and back alleys of New York, Chicago, L.A., wherever. These are people in all walks of life. They live in all different parts of the community. There's no barriers. There's no fences that keep you out. Um, and there's usually an internal turmoil that caused it. It's usually some kind of, as you said, brain thing that has affected you in some part of your life, and you're covering up that pain, and you have not reached to a point where you were getting help in any other way. And then once you get it, okay, even the medical profession and the government classifies addiction as a disease.
mhm,
So we have to start treating it more like that.
right.
We need to start treating people um, differently. How do you give hope to somebody if you keep calling them all kinds of negative things?
Yeah, and I think society does that. Like you said, the TV and the movies make addicts look like we're these bad people, but we're really people are crying out for help. We just don't know how. I know I wasn't taught to ask for help. I was just taught to pretty much suck it up and keep moving.
Yeah,
And I was afraid to ask for help because I'd get yelled at or whatever it may be, when I was younger, or I was just seeking attention. But like I said, it took I think my second time in rehab when I realized where my issue started, um, like where I became angry as a child. And if I knew to talk about that, I think maybe I wouldn't have looked to other ways for answers or to numb or cover it up.
yeah.
And I had a friend, my best friend actually, she has a son and he's really young. He's, I think, 12 and he's been getting in trouble. And she asked me, do I know a rehab or a place, for a minor? And I didn't have a clue. I never thought about that. So I got to thinking about that. Like, there is no, I mean, there's the RAP program at SMA, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there's no treatment facilities that help children. And now our kids are starting to use really young.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that our community needs to look at too is stopping our kids at a younger age before they spiral too much out of control.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is teaching how parents, how teachers and stuff can start identifying issues that are going on.
Definitely.
Parents have to realize that Whether they like it or not, they play a big part in what's going on. They don't understand that early childhood trauma can be as little as husband and wife fighting in front of their kid,
Most definitely.
and the kid doesn't know how to process it. And somewhere it's down deep, and somehow it comes out later, and that becomes a painful issue, and they started dealing with it. So whether it's a childhood trauma, whether it's an adult trauma, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's mental abuse, these are the things that drive people to cover up their pain. And like you said, most people, first of all, are embarrassed.
Yeah.
Okay. But they have to realize you'd rather get help. You should rather get help than be embarrassed, because if you don't get the help, you're going to end up in a condition that is even more tiresome and more dreadful, and possibly leads you to death.
Definitely.
So we need, as a community, need to wake up. Mental health, addiction, and mental health can't be separated.
No, definitely not.
No, it's all part and part of the same thing. So we have to learn to, as a community, to understand that we can take good care of the grass on the median divides on the highway,
Right.
but if we don't take good care of our people, we end up with a lot of problems.
Right.
And a lot of people don't like to hear it, that for a period of time, over the last 5, 6 years, Flagler County was between the second and 10th highest overdose county in the state of Florida,
Yeah.
based on population. At one point, we were the highest overdose death county, based on population. Thank God in this last year, we've seen an improvement, so things are getting a little bit better. I think there's more activity in our community. People are reaching out and want to be part of the help, be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And that's a big plus for us. But we haven't moved far enough away from those numbers. And we do need more help. And we need more organizations that are developed. I know the Flagler Focus on Youth Coalition works on the younger generations and trying to get into the schools to get the education on substance abuse and what causes it, so we can have that mind change and how to treat it and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You deal with it and and making sure people always know, just like what's on the screen, there's hope. And then it becomes a choice for those that are in it already. They need to want to get help.
That's right.
And want.
And I've always can remember thinking I want, because when you relapse, it's fun in the beginning, and then I always at despair at the end, ending days of active addiction. And I've always wanted it. I don't know. I just didn't do what I was supposed to do. I think that's important. And another big thing were the people, places, and things.
Yes.
I definitely believe that that's the number one thing I had to break from. And it took years to understand that. I've tried to get clean every way. I tried just using alcohol. I tried just using the drugs a different way. And I'm out of control. So it didn't work for me every which way. So
Yeah, it is. It takes, and I can't tell you what it really takes. I mean, I tell people my addiction was cigarettes. Okay, and we all know that nicotine is one of the hardest drugs, and it is a drug
mm-hmm.
to break yourself up. And I quit 6 times, and I relapsed 6 times, and then finally I got something that gave me what I needed to make that change. And that was going on 42 years ago. But I also know that I don't want to pick up a cigarette now,
Right.
because it would probably in just a very short time I'd be back up to 2 packs a day.
Yeah.
But I don't go around calling myself a cigarette addict anymore. I'm recovered.
Amen.
But I'm recovered to the point where I know what I can and can't do.
Right.
And that's an important thing. And then understanding the different triggers that would cause you to relapse. And I had those same triggers,
Yeah.
And people, places, and things were definitely part of it, giving that up.
Yeah.
Because when you were a smoker, you went to meetings, people were smoking. You went to have a beer someplace, people were smoking. You did all this kind of stuff. So you put yourself in the position that
Yeah.
makes it difficult.
Yeah.
So we all need to stay away from that, okay? And some of our friends need to know that while I'm going through this, I need to stay away from you because you're not healthy for me.
Right.
And then we also need to know that some of who call themselves our friends aren't.
That's right.
Misery loves company,
Mm-hmm.
and if you put yourself back in those positions, the misery is going to want to draw you back into their misery.
It definitely
And
does. It might not happen right away, but
no,
it does.
it's going to
Because I
happen.
could remember helping people that I shouldn't have been at the time. And because I was helping them at first, and it took a while to fall back in addiction, but I did. And when I did, it wasn't good. And I think I graduated drug court, I think in 2013. And that is where my life was saved by my needle addiction. I haven't touched a needle since then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that would have definitely killed me if I didn't. But I can remember when I left drug court, I didn't work a program. It was the longest I had stayed clean, but I now looking back at it, I was addicted to shopping. I mean, like ungodly amounts of things that I definitely didn't need.
Yep.
And I never thought who can be addicted to shopping, but yes. So,
Good. I think the internet has encouraged that
yeah,
too. So I'm sorry,
yeah,
but you need to be back and have those understandings and be willing to spend the time to get the tools you need. And that's what you're talking about. You didn't always use the tools. You didn't
right,
complete the programs.
right.
We see this in drug court all the time. We'll get to graduation, and there's been just a bunch of people that just I've worked the program just so I can get out of the program.
Fake it till you make it.
That's it. And
Yeah,
you can fake it. And what they don't think back on is, man, I've been clean for a year, a little over a year to get through to this graduation. Why do I need to go back there?
it
But
causes
it's
so much grief and so much problems. Like, just if I just would have stayed clean and just did what I was told, um, it just would have been much easier. But unfortunately, that wasn't my story. But I do know if I stay clean today and do what's told, I will definitely keep living a happy, clean life. I have my kids back in my life.
praise God.
My daughters talk to me. Um, Getting ready to see my youngest kids that I haven't seen in about 2 years. And that's been a battle because that's something that I'm very shameful, to say that my oldest daughter takes care of my two younger kids. No mother wants to tell people that. So I had to overcome the shamefulness of that. And I think I did that. And I'm just ready to help and be there and show up no matter what for my kids.
That's
So,
fantastic. That is, we hear that story and hear that story often in our world. And it's always such a blessing when we see things being reunited, getting to the point where you're working on getting there and having the families brought back together.
I used to just complain and blame everybody around me and not look at my part of where I went wrong or what I did wrong. It was always somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And through my kids, my daughter said to me, and I'll never forget this because she was trying to tell me some trauma that something that I did, when she was younger that bothers her to this day. And I pretty much answered back to her as if I didn't validate her feelings, pretty much. And she looked at me and she said, "Who are you to tell me how I should feel?" And that stayed on my heart. It still does because she's right. And I had an aha moment like, wow, she's right. Because I don't like when people tell me how I should feel. And
Yeah,
so now I just listen, and all I can do is do better today, stay clean, and show up for them when they need me and validate their feelings. I
that's,
don't have to have a reason or an explanation. I just have to validate that that's how they felt at that time and where I went wrong.
that's
So,
good.
yeah.
But when you come to those realizations, you're increasing your stability in your recovery.
Definitely.
You're removing some of the bumps that are in the road, or you're just making them smoother, little bit, little by little. And as you look back now and see that, you can spend more time instead of looking back by looking forward.
Definitely.
All right. And you know that the road to recovery can be a bumpy road. It can be a winding road. It can be all kinds of things. But if we keep our eyes on what's in front of us, moving forward around those curves, up and over those bumps, and know that there's still hope and there's help,
Yes. Definitely.
okay? Hang on to that. Hang on to that. So when the things that might come in your way, when those bumps get really bumpy, that there is people that you've come across that are now helping you and surrounding you in a good way. There's other people or other things, and what you've learned, the tools that you've learned along the road will help you fix that flat tire.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's if we could only let people understand it, that's so important for them to understand that part of it.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for help at
No.
all.
And don't look back on your mistakes
Yeah.
without the fact. I tell people, in drug court, you could be in drug court and you can have, let's say, 150 days of clean, and then you fail a UA because
Mm-hmm.
something happened.
Right.
Okay. In drug court, they have to take those clean days away from you as far as the program. But those clean days are still there. So you need to think, not you, but everybody would need to think back. I still have those clean days. I
Right.
might not have them in the program because that's the way the program is,
Right.
but I still did 150 days or 200 days, whatever it is, without using. I have a slip,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Not a relapse. I can get back on the horse. I can go
That's right.
and start over.
I have, in the past, I've never been able to relapse and then get clean on my own. It was always had to be put in jail, rehab, or in some kind of institution held down. Um, this time around, I actually went on my own, and it was just different. It felt different. I actually reached out for help and asked for help, and I know my road so far has been a lot easier than when I'm being tied down and fighting and kicking.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm not today.
No, and that's great. And what we're here for in the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation is to help our participants in things the court can't do for them. Underneath the little hope sign, if I don't know if people can read it or not, but what you see there, it says helping our participants excel, removing some of the blocks, some of the things the court can't do for them, to remove some of the pressures so they can concentrate on their recovery. But again, they have to ask for it.
Right.
Okay, we can't force our help on anybody. You got to want it. You got to understand if you're always just a little bit away from success,
Right.
and that's it's tough. It's tough.
It can be.
But what we see when I see the struggles that you've been through, but you haven't given up.
No.
Okay, that helps encourages us to stay with what we do
Yeah.
because it can be a rocky road for even those people helping people in recovery
Yeah.
when we don't see as much success as we'd like to see. And success is not only complete success, but it is people that, like yourself, have been there, done that, had some failures, and keep coming back.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier in this conversation, you now know more about who you are and the things you need to do than you did the last time or the time before that. You've learned at each of these incidences that have occurred, your setbacks. And if we learn from those things, okay, we can say to ourselves, you know what? It sucked. But here I am because I've learned and I'm going to keep going forward. It's not going to be the end.
Yeah.
So I think we'd like to have you back here in a couple months.
Okay.
and we'll have conversations, see how we're doing,
All right.
and have you follow us, and we'll follow you if that's okay,
Yes, sir.
and help bring the word out into the community.
Okay.
So, and if there's anything that we can do to help you along the way, if there's something we can, we will. If there's something we can't, we'll tell you we can't. But we'll also try to help in any way we can. So again, this is
Yeah.
Mike Velbauer from the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation saying thanks for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again in the future. Don't go away.